Vanessa Sinclair and her mom, Valerie. Why did I just forget your last name? Osborn, so
Osborn.
easy.
Two
Osborn.
B's.
Osborn, Vanessa Sinclair, Valerie Osborn. They are mother-daughter duo dynamo, who I know nothing about, and so I'm gonna do the Larry King method because I know nothing about you, and I'm gonna be like the audience, right? Larry King never read the book. He never did any research before interviews. So that's how we're gonna do. We're gonna wing it with you.
But
So-
you have no suspenders on.
Yeah, that's right. And but it'll be suspenseful.
Good one.
Okay, so I'm gonna be off camera, but you're gonna hear Valerie and Vanessa. Okay, so we're talking about. Thank you, Valerie and Vanessa, for coming. I'm gonna be here so that you'll be able to.
Can they hear you?
Huh? But
Can
they can hear me from here, yeah.
Okay.
So, the first question I have for you is, how would you describe the difference in the mother-daughter relationship as an adult daughter versus as a child? From your perspective.
Choose your words. Oh my God, this is dangerous territory. Don't forget, I've got a very retentive memory, guys.
Uh-oh.
I think as adults, we're more like good friends. Growing up, I was just the daughter and I had rules and discipline. Now I can do what the hell I want. No. I'm the oldest of four, so I was the good child. I was the oldest sensible one. Didn't cause them too many gray hairs and troubles. I left that for my sister.
Vanessa,
What would you say?
I would say, without being smarmy, that Vanessa was my best friend, always. No, seriously, I was 20 when I had her. I knew nothing about having babies. And I had this lovely little girl who was sensible. And she helped me with housework. We had
I
a
used to
fire.
love to dust and
We
clean.
had, we had a
Times have
fireplace.
changed.
We lived in an old English cottage with a copper hood, and her happy place was a duster, and she'd polish all day long. And then when she was 17 months old, I had Toby, my first son, and she was like another mother. And we've always had a very, I know this sounds nauseating, but it's not, it's true. We've always had an easy relationship. The only problem I hit with her was 15. When she was 15, she had this gorgeous hair which hung down to her bum, this beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous copper hair. And she went off to spend the weekend with a girlfriend. And Rod Stewart was the guy at the day. And you know what's going to happen. She came back with her hair in a Rod Stewart. She had short, funky hair.
My best friend loved my hair.
I mean, her hair was her crowning glory. It was beautiful hair.
And does anyone remember sun-in? So my best friend was blonde, so she had this sun-in and would spray it to
It
get
was
more blonde.
hideous.
My hair was brunette, reddish brunette. So
Yeah.
mine just turned orange, like really orange.
I was literally heartbroken. I was heartbroken. And I had to keep her off school for 2 days because Monday in England, all the hairdressers closed. So we couldn't go to hairdressing. Tuesday we went and had to cut her hair really, really short and then dye it back to what had been her color, which it wasn't in the end. And before she could go to school. And of course, she was completely humiliated. Now the high had become very low. So getting her to go to school that third day was difficult, and it was horrible for her because obviously everyone noticed her hair. But
How did you like the hair?
Fun. I don't know. I haven't got
a clear memory of it.
clear memories as mom had of that. It was just kind of, you kind of want to be a little rebellious. I think that same friend and we ran away from home for about 4 hours, then got scared. I think we got on a bus and went to like the next town, and we're going to be runaways for whatever reason. Probably because our parents wouldn't let us do something fairly minor.
Did everybody here?
and I remember
Did y'all
sitting
get
in
to
this-
the end of the table?
We
Okay.
sat in this kids' playground quite late at night as runaways. And then we got scared and went home. And, and so no one ever knew we were runaways because
Okay, give us a sense of place. Where was this and when
Well,
was
that
this?
was in
at
Oxford. In Oxford, we lived in Oxford. We'd been through a lot because my husband decided to buy a farm at one time. And he bought a farm in the Cotswolds, which was very, very beautiful. We had this gorgeous house, and we moved into this wonderful, wonderful home. By then I had, how many children I have then? It's four.
Oh,
Bron was born
okay.
there. I had 4 children, one of whom was newly born, and we lived in this beautiful house. And unfortunately, my husband screwed it up, and we went bankrupt. And so we had to leave the farm, which was their home, and go into a rental house nearby. And if it hadn't have been for Vanessa, I probably would have gone mad, because I was still breastfeeding the baby, and then I had 2 little boys that were crazy, and then I had Vanessa. And she was my best friend, because she was a sobering, I know this is going to sound nauseating, but I was so young that I had no experience of anything like this. And, you know, I thought when I met my husband, who I met, by the way, when I was 14 for the first time, he was the boyfriend of a friend of mine. And I
And you
just,
stole him away?
what?
You stole?
No, he was in the
Not
army.
bad.
It was the army.
Bad.
I was an Air Force brat. We were living in Berlin. And it was a time when all British men had to do 2 years national service, which I so approve of. I wish it was still now. And Brian was doing his national service with the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. And I had a girlfriend whose sister was dating this guy, this soldier. And I used to go to her house and see this guy. And I thought, you know. And 4 years later, I was back at home in England for the first time in years, for reasons I won't bore you with, because it had something to do with my father's career. And I was at Cambridge doing a secretarial course. And I'm walking down the main road in Cambridge called King's Parade one day, and I see this man coming out of a bank. And he walked past us, and Crystal, the girl I was with, said, "Oh my God, he's good looking." And I turned around, I said, "I've seen him before somewhere." And Pete stopped, and he turned around, and he looked at me, and he said, "I know you." And I said, "Oh, your name is da 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 da." And he said, "Yes." He said, "You that little girl, aren't you? That annoying little girl." He said, "I must say, you've grown up very nicely." And that was,
It's only the English can say, I must say, you've grown up very
but
nicely.
it was, you know, it
Not
was
that little
literally
girl.
love at first sight. That was it. We were together from then on. I never had a boyfriend. It was just Brian. And so when the farm collapsed, it was all very traumatic. And Vanessa was there, and she was my little helper. I mean, she helped me mentally and physically with all these kids and what was going on with our private life and everything. And in fact, years later, when it was all too difficult to cope with, I won't go into all why my first marriage didn't work, but she had a charm bracelet, which she was given by her godmother. Every year she'd get a little charm. And she gave it to me. And she said, "I want you to use this, Mummy, to get a divorce." Wow. Because you need a lawyer in those days.
Yeah.
And so she went through my divorce with me as my right-hand girl and helped me with the kids. So we've always been, I know it sounds nauseating, but we've always been good friends.
It doesn't sound nauseating. However, I will ask the question about boundaries, because what they teach parents and
Oh, yeah.
mothers a lot is, you're a mother, you're not a friend. And
Exactly.
this was my problem in my relationship with my daughter too. I was too much of a friend. So,
Yeah.
so how did you navigate that? You know, you, at some point you have to break away as the friend and then establish your own identity. What did you do?
So from my point of view, I didn't feel like the friend. I was just like the oldest child. As I don't know if any of you are the oldest children. I was just talking with Joanna about this. As the oldest, you feel responsible for fixing the problems of the family. I still do to this day. And if you talk to anyone who's the oldest, 99% of the time, they feel like they should be the problem solver with the siblings, with the parents, with grandparents, whatever. So I didn't feel she was my best friend. I just felt she was my mom. But I was like the oldest, and I was close to my siblings. It just was natural. I didn't really think about it. I just did it.
But you had a lot of responsibility for a young person from a young age.
Yes,
correct?
Yeah.
Yes and no. I didn't feel like that time. You just get on with it,
It
you know?
didn't feel like a burden.
Right. And it wasn't really, I think, until I became a mom that I felt she was my best friend type of thing, more than mom. And, you know, I've learned a lot from her. We've been through a lot with each other. We've all had ups and downs. Usually if she's on a up, I'm on a down, and vice versa. So we have each other's backs, and we've all hit rock bottom at times through relationships or whatever. And
Talk about the rock bottom of losing your beautiful place in the Cotswolds, though, because in the United States, it's a little more forgiving, I guess. There's this whole class issue in England when
Yeah, there is.
there's a whole, what do you call it? It's the appearances that you have to keep up.
Oh,
Right.
yeah,
Yes.
social thing. Well,
Social.
So speak a little louder so they can.
well, and again, this is not trying to be effective, it's the truth. When I was 26, I stood in a field breastfeeding Bronwyn, my youngest daughter, watching everything I owned be auctioned off. Everything, furniture, everything. And a friend of ours found us his house to live in, which was ghastly, but it was near Christmas.
Spooky. That's all I
Spooky.
remember, it's spooky.
We
It was
moved,
spooky.
it was
Oh.
a spooky old house. We moved into it and they put on the heating, and one by one, the skirting boards burst. The mushrooms,
Baseboards.
baseboards. And we were all in one room at one time, hugger mugger, and it was Christmas. And Bronwyn was about to be christened. We do christenings in Britain. And she was going to be christened, and Brian, my husband's family, were coming in from Ireland where they lived. And it can be a family thing. And cut a long story short, one by one, everyone got ill. I had 16 people in this awful house ill. And the doctor came and was dispensing stuff. Everybody had a throat and one of those infections.
It's so
We were
funny,
so
'cause
ill.
I've never remember any of this.
You don't remember it.
Thank
That's so
God, thank
interesting.
God you don't.
Yeah.
I just remember I had this kid's sister who was always had a snotty nose and she was just pesky brat.
She's
Yeah.
now an actress in Hollywood. No,
No,
it's been a trip. It really has, but it's been my trip. And I've considered myself, I look at other girlfriends who have these wonderful, safe marriages.
these rings are making.
No,
it's
sorry, I don't envy them. I don't envy them because
Well, no one
our
knows what
journey,
goes on behind closed doors.
No.
So even people that seem to have the perfect
No.
marriage, I've learned don't. So you,
and last time I saw her father, he's dead now, by the way, and he died last year. And last time I saw him, we went over to Wales, we rented a house with all the kids and all the family came. So I have 2 sons over there with lots of kids between them. Toby has 5 children, Richard has 3. So we had this big family reunion, this lovely place. And I went to see Brian, and I didn't want to go and see him because he's got his girlfriend now. He's lived with this lady for quite some time. And by the way, he went bankrupt and never really managed to recoup
I remember
everything.
second time.
Second time, he's been a financial disaster person, but utterly charming and beautiful. And very well educated and very erudite and a fascinating man, very, very sexy, interesting,
Okay, fast
elegant
forward.
man.
We're not talking about men. we're
No,
talking
but seriously, give him his due, but an absolute loser.
Yeah.
Okay. Pretty one. Yeah, a pretty one. So we went back and I said, well, you all go and see Dad today. I'm staying here. And they said, no, we want you to come. And I said, I don't want to come. So I went. And you saw the reaction.
I wasn't there.
Oh, it was Vanessa.
Other daughter.
When he saw me, immediately my nickname, which was Vivs, and he was all affectionate with me and put me into the dining room and showed me things that he'd actually stolen from me from my grandmother. Do you remember this little dolly?
I hear he tried to kiss you.
And he did. And I felt such love for him. Isn't that weird? I felt incredible love for him. And then when her son got married, he came. I'm now happily married to Tom. And we all stayed in this house. And I was horrified. They invited their father to come with his little girlfriend.
Mm.
And
It was my sister. Sorry. I disapprove.
And they came, and I found myself alone in what they call the butler's pantries. It's a big old country house we stayed in. It accommodated 28 people. That's how big it was. It was a beautiful manor house where actually we found out later, didn't we, that Prince William had stayed there with Kate when they were courting after
Yeah.
And because there was a book in the library with all the photographs and local cuttings, so we didn't know that. We rented the house through Airbnb. And I found myself alone in the butler's pantry with Brian. And we had a bit of what we English call snog.
Yeah.
A moment.
And it was so funny. He got on so well with my husband, who was a very different man, a very quiet, very successful, very serious man. And they sat and he stayed the whole week because of his relationship with Tom. And it was my husband. And it just seemed so weird that these 2 husbands of mine were just besties and having this wonderful week together. And my daughter was hanging out with the girlfriend, and it was just all kind of bizarre. But
Tell me about your relationship with your mother. Was your relationship with your mother similar to your relationship with Vanessa?
no,
Mhm.
completely different. My mother had a Down syndrome baby,
Mhm,
4 years after I was born. Don't forget, I was born during the war.
mhm.
I didn't see my father in three years. I thought my granddad would. We lived in Scotland to get away from all the bombing. And I thought that my granddad was my dad. And so one day this guy rolled up with this beautiful uniform. And I was told it was my father, and I didn't like it at all. So it was very different. And then Duncan was born 4 years after me, at a time when no one knew what Down syndrome was or understood it.
Mm.
And my mother was very traumatized by it and thought he could be cured and all that kind of stuff. And so my grandmother took care of me, my mum, and went off and tried to get things sorted for Duncan. Then Duncan came back, and Granny was looking after me and my brother. We spent a lot of time alone with her when Mum and Dad were gone.
Mhm.
And so I was a little bit intimidated by my mother because she did have a temper, and also she cried a lot because of my brother. I adored her, but I wasn't quite, and it wasn't until much later, when I was about 12, that kind of thing, by which time my brother had died, and I was sent off to boarding school when I was 11. And so she was somebody that I thought was very pretty and very glamorous. I didn't really know very well. But then when I came back from school, I got to know her. And I got to know her relationship with my father. And as time went by, the person she fell in love with was sitting on my right here. She adored Vanessa.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I think Vanessa was the baby that she wished I'd been. That's not because I'm being nauseating, but Vanessa was such an easy, sweet little girl.
Wow.
And
It was just different times.
different
then.
times,
Different
and I've
stress.
always, I've never held it against Mummy because, I mean, came from a Scottish farming family.
Yeah.
She was engaged to a tea planter.
Scottish women also are very,
They
don't
there's
show
no
their
motion, no
emotions.
motion. You
It's
don't say I
very-
love you. My
keep
mother
it all
never told me she
inside.
loved me.
Did you have a daughter also? Or
I have two daughters.
You have two daughters. So your relation with your daughter, how is that different from your relation with your mother?
I probably tried to model it on Mum because she's always been very supportive and there for me, which, no matter what I'm going through, I know she has my back, whether she approves or not, she's got my back. And I try and be as good a mum to my girls. I have two very different girls,
Mhm.
which if any of you have two daughters, you'll know that
Chalk and cheese.
chalk
but-
and cheese,
yeah.
like my sister and I are very different. I
Totally
love her
different.
dearly, but we're very different. My two girls are very different. One is very, how can I describe Caroline.
How old are they?
They are 30 and 36.
Okay.
So they're my
One sensible, and
second and
wonderful.
fourth children. I have boy, girl, boy, girl. Yeah, one is my youngest is very sensible, down to earth. The oldest one she has ADD, but she's
She's actually
adorable.
brilliant. She's brilliant.
Mhm.
and She's
She's very
beautiful.
intelligent, but she acts like a dumb blonde.
Mhm.
She's
Sorry for the
anything-
blondes, but-
Anything but it. She's
But she's
anything
not a
but that
blonde,
She's,
and-
she's a beautiful
Yeah.
girl, and she's very sexy. And men
She
just
adores her
fall.
grandmother, and now Mum is living here in Austin. Like, I feel that's really been enhanced our family because
Yeah, talk about that now that your mom's living in the same city.
it's fabulous. We always sort of dreamt about being, my kids are, so all four of my kids are super close to Mum. They adore their granny. They
We have a lot of fun together.
have a lot of
Well,
fun.
come on, the fun granny. I
She
mean,
is.
who wouldn't want a granny like you?
We are. Apart from loving these kids, I like them.
Yeah.
So their nickname for them growing up, they're so my husband's mother she was goodness me granny, just because she says the phrase goodness me a lot. She's very
But
English.
she was again.
No, but that's why she did the goodness. The Neil, my youngest, came up with that. When you first getting to know the family and you get the pictures. When he was about 18 months old, we just spent Christmas with her, and I'm going through the family like, this is Uncle Bruce and this is so and so. And I'm like, who's this? Thinking he'd say Granny, and he would, goodness me, Granny. I'm like, why do you follow that? He says, because she says goodness me a lot. And I'd known this woman for 3 years before I had babies. Never noticed how often she says goodness me. And the minute Neil, it's just amazing the things kids pick up on.
Yeah.
And the minute Neil said that, the next time we went to visit, every other word is like, goodness me, goodness me, goodness me. So she was goodness me, Granny, and this one was good old Gran, because she was just the fun one. She sent fun gifts. She was just fun to be around, but she lived in the US for a lot of my kids' life. My oldest was 16 before we moved to the US. But they still, that goes to show it's not about seeing your grandma every week or, it's just about quality time and memories.
Before I go to the questions
So-
from the group, I have one more question. Royalists, both of you?
Yeah,
Not royal-
Absolutely, 100%.
So.
Well,
But
we don't like the king.
That's not our king.
Not our king.
That,
And as for Camilla,
that bitch has blood on her hands. End of story. End of story. We live in that stretch. We actually we're going back there this summer. We live in a place called Banbury. And that is about 2 hours.
Well, it's on Royal Decent.
Royalty side on the way to Balmoral. So and my father, not mean to toot my family of born here, but my father taught Prince, well, actually.
We used to brag about this, not quite so much.
No, not
but
now, but he taught Prince Andrew at Gordonston School for 4 years. He was known as Randy Andy then.
Yeah.
Little do we know what his career was. But and he used to come down to my mother's house, and in exchange for mummy making him scones, he would chop her kindling for fires. And we all actually met the Queen, and the Queen's a lovely lady. Mum said to her, well, can I pour you tea, Mom? And she said, I'd rather have a gin tonic. And she's a
Yeah.
tiny woman with
When you
bright
meet her,
blue
like,
eyes.
you know, that-
And you
she's
cannot
quite a
believe how
normal
sweet
person,
she is.
yeah.
She's a giggler.
Wow.
She's not like that show, The Crown. She is a sweet, busty, tiny woman who giggles with bright blue eyes. And Margaret was a sexy woman.
What about Harry and Meghan?
I love them.
You love them. You
If
love
you-
both of them?
I
I
love
had
them.
my reservations
I love them.
before I read his book, because when they did the Netflix series,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
okay, you want to go away and be quiet, but
Yeah.
you're on Netflix.
Yeah.
Figure it out. But
Yeah.
if you read his book, Spare,
I read the book. Unbelievable.
I listened
What
to
he put
Audible
up with, that
with
poor boy.
him. narrating
Even
it.
William, who rejected him when he went to school, you can't be friends with.
Yeah, I didn't realize his brother was such
No,
a shit.
such shit.
Yeah.
And Kate, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She's no more royal than you and I are.
See?
No, Camilla, you mean.
Excuse, right
Yeah,
here.
Camilla.
Here we go. And next.
I also mean
Oh,
Kate.
you also mean Kate.
Kate's parents were working class people who
Yeah.
actually started a party supply shop. And they're not royal.
They don't claim to be.
They don't claim to be. Camilla actually has a more prestigious background, give her that, than Kate's parents. And Kate one day will be queen. And it blows our mind that an adulteress.
Yeah.
I've
Right.
known what it's like to be married to a man who's
Mhm.
committed adultery.
Mhm.
That is, it's disgusting.
It was really hard to see Camilla with a crown on her head.
Yeah.
Like a
Crown
bubble.
on her- Yes, how dare they put a crown on that woman's head? She is the other woman with blood on her hands.
Because the queen
don't know.
said she's gonna be queen consort and all of a sudden she's queen.
Charles, well, don't, have you noticed the Queen's dead? Charles,
He changed that.
he changed that because this is his lifelong mistress.
Yeah.
He used to have dinner with Diana and then get in his Jag and drive at 2 miles up the road to
Yeah.
where she lived. I mean,
First phase, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay,
back to Mother
all
Daughter.
right,
stuff.
that will open us up to some really interesting
Yeah.
questions, I'm sure. Okay, who has a question? Raise your hand. Any questions at the table? No questions at the table? Should I keep going? Yeah. Okay. All right, so any more skinny inside news about the road? 'Cause this one we want- Oh, wait, we have
No
a
more
question.
skinny on the Royals.
Wait. Yeah. I have to repeat it because you make it short, uh-huh.
The first child, so how much, what's the age difference between your?
What's the age difference?
8 years.
Mhm.
One, she's the top of my family, the boy's in the middle and Roman's the young.
So you, many years by yourself.
No, I had two brothers.
Oh, you did.
Yeah.
She was 17 months old when my
Yeah,
son
there's a
took.
whole bunch of them.
I guess was it different? I mean, I was the oldest child, and I had a sister 2 years later, when I was that. And it did change the dynamics once other children came in, and it sounds like from what you were talking about earlier, that if you took on some of the mothering, both y'all were almost, not mothering together, but.
So she's talking about for the live stream audience, she's talking about how the dynamics change once the oldest child becomes not the only child, but more
I have
children.
no
come into the
idea. I
family.
don't remember. I was only 2, 3.
No, but she
4.
would remember.
She might remember. Yeah.
It didn't make any difference because Vanessa was always sensible. No, she was,
I was
she
like
was,
a little mother's help.
she was a
apparently.
good little girl. I'm being serious now. She was,
I'm a nurturer.
How do you like that?
she
that
was a
description?
she was a good little girl. She was easy to be with,
was
you know,
an
she did
angel.
what she was told. And no, she was a sweet little girl. It's that simple. And then Toby came, and Toby is the most divine man you'll ever meet. He has 5 children now. Toby is a wonderful guy. He's a sweet, funny, loving man. And everyone loves Toby. He never meets a stranger.
It's like a Peter Pan.
He is just a lovely, lovely human being. And he and Vanessa were very, very sweet together, very close together. And then here comes Richard, who's difficult. He's always been difficult. He's still difficult. And he was very envious as a little boy of his brother, because everything Toby did was easy. Richard had to struggle for it. And Richard's got scars on his face where trying to keep up with Toby, the swing, all this kind of thing. He had injuries. And then here comes Bronwyn. And Bronwyn is this little doll that they all
With a
love
snotty nose.
with a snotty nose.
Yeah.
And she's a
She was
pretty,
grizzly the first 2 years.
she was born grizzling, but she's this little pretty doll that they all wanted to play with. I've got photographs of them on the floor with her playing as if she were a dolly, and they gave her nicknames and teased her. They called her, what do they call her? Kizzy. There was a gypsy girl, and she always looked like a gypsy girl. She
We
got
told her
straggly
we
black hair and
adopted her from
snot.
gypsies or
Yeah, we
something.
told her. she
My
kept-
brothers created this story sometime and she believed it. I
She
know.
thought she was adopted. They teased. But, it's
Good sibling fun.
it was just, there was no, she didn't have a nose put out of joint because other kids came along. There's
I loved having
one thing
siblings.
I've never seen with any of my children, and I know it sounds smarmy, but it's true. I've never seen any jealousy between any of them. But Bronwyn, for instance, who I live with right now, she's going through a divorce. So, it's very traumatic. She adores her sister. She looks up to Vanessa. She just loves her sister unconditionally. It's a deep love. She always has done. She respects her. Vanessa, in turn, is incredibly lovely to her younger sister, who she recognizes what she's going through. And she's helped her adjust to this life here in Austin. I mean, she's in real estate, but she's chosen Bronwyn to be her stage now, because Bronwyn's very artsy-tartsy, artistic, and complete nut job.
But she is good at, if anyone wants her homes reorganized.
No, she's incredibly dramatically wonderful, glamorous girl. She's an actress and all the rest of it. She's beautiful.
She's really good at organization.
And she's
and
very good
staging.
at this and got wonderful taste point. And so they're working together. From mother's
Just
point
fun.
of view, this is so lovely for me to see my girls, talking about furniture and what's going to go in a room together and enjoying.
Do you ever stop worrying about your children?
Never.
Sorry. Just like blasted everyone's eardrums.
No, I never am going to die.
I
do-
never stop worrying about.
I worry that I'll die before everything's smoothed out. You
Mhm.
you want to, I gotta hang on a bit longer because I want to make sure. I would love to see Vanessa with a nice man.
Mhm.
I would.
Dream on.
No, I would. So I want to see a Bronwyn, married a
With a
guy
nice
who none of
man.
us can stand. And I'd love to see her taken care of too.
Mhm.
Before I go by, that's it, I've had enough out. I'd
Or
love to
maybe you'll be happy being a happy spinster.
I'd love to see them both have nice husbands who appreciate their work. My sons have got nice wives. And
Are you happy being single now, though?
no,
Do you feel like you need another man in your life?
Yeah,
oh my God.
she would love a companion. If any of you know anyone suitable, let's have drinks.
I've been married since I was 18 on and off.
She loves men.
I love men.
And they love her.
I love being married and I would love to, I miss being married? You betcha. I desperately miss being married.
She had a good one.
I
Tom
had a
was good.
lovely husband and who treated me wonderfully well and we had a sweet life together.
Oh,
We
he
traveled.
died.
He died sadly. He just dropped down dead one day.
Oh, gosh.
We were doing the bucket list. We just come back from Cambodia and all
Oh,
that.
gosh.
We went to see the Clay Warriors at Xi'an. That's
Ah.
one of his things. And we got back and 2 days later, we were still sort of, recovering from jet lag. And we were living in Laguna Beach and I called him for coffee and he said he was going to have a shower. He didn't come. And eventually I went down and he was dead in a chair.
Oh, gosh.
So,
Like the Widowmaker, like
the
Oh,
Widowmaker.
yes,
It's
right.
good way
So-
for him to die. But
Yeah, but.
I will never get over him.
Shock.
He was.
Jennifer had a question.
So I want to know, now that you're in Texas, how do you adjust it to our extreme heat?
Oh, shut up.
You wanted to know.
She has honestly said,
How
"Hey, don't be stuck."
adjusted to the heat and the
Sorry.
politics.
We don't mention.
Well, I
politics.
ignore politics because they suck and I have no intention of even acknowledging this lack of common sense with everything.
Yeah, we don't do politics.
But I hang on to the fact that I've arrived in an island that's civilized in a sea of horror.
Right.
So I don't want to leave Boston. I don't want to leave, I don't want to go down south. You know, it's, as a
They
Brit,
love
as
Boston.
a Brit, it's impossible for us to even understand what's going
As a
on.
New Yorker calls it, a blueberry in the tomato soup of Texas.
There
Yes, there
you
you
go.
go.
That's exactly, well, this is it. Well, this is
And
it.
you asked about the heat. We haven't got to summer yet, but she lived in Arizona for
I
many
lived in
years.
Arizona for several years. I know about heat, but everybody you meet, they say, whoa, wait together. You know, it's like this doom thing. It's like, we're gonna go, well, first of all, we're getting out of it. We're going to Scotland.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to Minneapolis, where I used to live. Yeah, yes, Nancy. We're gonna get passes for swimming pools. We're trying to intellectualize the heat. What we're gonna do.
Intellectualize the heat. I love that.
I'm not quite sure what that means, but I look
have-
forward to
I
it.
have a question.
Yes.
sort of. So I have a daughter who is now 42 and we're very close. And I have a son, so I have 2 kids. But at any rate, with my daughter, she will confide in me, especially when she's pissed off at her husband for something.
Right.
But then suddenly the next time she's in love with him and he can do no wrong. So you
Oh, yeah.
just have to keep this.
Keep your
I
mouth
don't
shut.
say anything because
I
if
hear
I
you.
say something against him, then the next time it's not a good thing to have said. So
No,
it's
you just keep your mouth shut.
just keep my mouth shut.
My best friend always says mouth shut, heart open.
That's very true.
How do you do that, though? I
What?
mean, you must, when you see
Well,
your children.
Alcohol helps.
When you see your children making a mistake, going down the wrong path.
I have one of those right now.
You
We're
do?
witnessing it.
We have one right now who, it's her youngest daughter,
Mhm.
her eldest daughter. She
I
is,
was thinking my son, actually.
oh, well, we have
So I
2
guess-
actually. We're not that happy family, I think we are.
Okay.
No, we've got 2 disasters. This girl is lovely. She's lovely. She's very pretty. She's very successful, has a great job. Wins all these awards because of her job. Married, lives in a nice house, blah, blah, blah. But she believes in no vaccinating for her children, which drives us crazy. So Chloe, her
And no
granddaughter's got
boundaries.
no boundaries. She can run around. There's no such thing as a high chair or a push chair. The girl runs amok all over the place, causing havoc.
Mm.
And we try to talk to her about this, and she doesn't want to hear us.
Mm.
So this is an ongoing problem we have because it's going to be horrible. I pity the passengers that find themselves on a transatlantic flight to London
With her dog.
with Chloe.
On a
because
different
Chloe
flight.
is going to be running up and down and saying hello to everybody and in the middle of the night, not crying and then screaming and all that. It's horrible. So that's that. What was the other question?
I was actually talking about my son who's in a relationship
Oh, yes,
with a
he's-
very unsuitable girl. And that's the hardest thing when you see
Yeah.
someone
Yeah.
in,
He's not appreciated. He's
He's-
divine. And he's not appreciated.
it's gone bad, right? And he's not acknowledged. She's not happy. He's not happy. And all of us can see it. You just want to say,
We can't see anything.
stop wasting your life.
Mm.
And they're engaged, but there's no wedding plans, thank God.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think you'll find that being a
It could be
mother,
worse. And
being a
it's,
mother is.
I don't know whether to
ongoing
say
job.
something or whether to keep my mouth shut. Right now, it's closed.
I
But
often go to the song, Let It Be.
yes,
And that's a very good maxim.
Oh, we have.
just do a lot of
question.
praying.
This is about ways that I have advice on that too, with me, to ask them how they feel. How they do.
They put it on them.
Yeah, ask them
Okay.
how they
Ask
feel.
them
you
how
know,
they feel.
That's a
from the
good one.
audience.
But
Thank
being a
you.
guy, he's like, I'm fine, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So my daughter's getting married in November, and I want to have some words of wisdom. for her. We've had some marriages and others, I think there's been quite a few courses in this group, and what did you say to Vanessa when she was going to get married? Did you have words of wisdom, and you got people that obviously your son thinking about getting married. What do you say to your daughter who's getting ready to start a life with a man and hopefully be independent and be strong and
The question is, what do you say to your daughter when she's getting ready to marry the wrong person?
Right, well, no,
Ready to meet the right person.
Well,
Marry the right person.
Hopefully the right person.
Vanessa met this wonderful young man in Scotland. And I loved him on sight. He came from the kind of family that understand. He and his mother and I were friends. Okay. He had, you could tick every box. He'd been to university, he'd been well educated, he was nice looking.
Keep in mind, I was 19.
She was 19. He ticked all the boxes for a potentially wonderful husband. And he was a wonderful husband in that he gave her 4 beautiful children. He gave her a beautiful home. She never had to worry about money. It was a secure relationship. The fact that he'd been sent to boarding school himself when he was like 6, which is very much a British thing. His father was in the Navy. He had no idea of how to be a pal. He knew how to be a lover. And he, well, come on. He knew how to be. Oh my God. Oh my God.
That's why I'm divorced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you're assuming that you know, but she's like,
Well,
I
that wasn't.
didn't know what
No,
happened
he
between the
wasn't-
sheets.
He wasn't,
But
it
he
wasn't do
seemed
that.
perfectly, he was very suitable for my daughter.
You would, fast forward, you wouldn't say that.
on paper, he was suitable.
I liked him.
On paper in the beginning.
I'm still fond of him. She hates
He
to
was,
say that.
he was a shitty husband. That's it.
Yeah, he used to call me witchy.
He used to put me down the whole time for the
Yeah,
kids.
I had a sense of, I had a sense of,
Belittle me,
No.
which kills love.
no,
bit by bit.
Absolutely.
yeah.
And he still does it to his second wife.
Why do you still like him?
He's actually mellowed in years and
He
fond of her.
during the divorce, he came to me looking for answers to try and see how they
He
could get
didn't
back
want to be
together.
divorced. It was me.
He
that
didn't
wanted-
want to be divorced. And I felt a certain prick. I had sons of my own. I know how men are such idiots for the most part. You know, it was difficult. I felt I did try to help him how to reach Vanessa. And they did have a coming to, they had a moment there where they had, I think you had a picnic with strawberries in the hotel. didn't
No,
you?
we didn't. No, we
Yeah, you
didn't.
did.
We didn't. You forced me to go on a couples counseling weekend and I did, and it
No.
didn't work. But I tried.
But he's
I didn't have any
been a
moments.
good father and he's still a good man. And he didn't do what my lovely husband did. He didn't mortgage their home and lose it. And I mean, he kept her going.
Yeah.
He put his kids through college, all 4 of them.
That's true.
So you cannot completely, he was a good man, a good pick. Unfortunately, he hadn't been taught because that he's a type of Englishman who has no idea how to express himself emotionally or lovingly. They're cold fish.
I hear that about Englishmen.
They're very cold.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
wham bam, thank you,
Yeah.
ma'am, that's sex. And you know, it's
Is that right?
no, it's not a beautiful thing.
Mhm.
And they don't make you feel feminine and glorious and adored. They make you feel like, you know, the wife.
Yeah.
It's your duty. Open your legs and shut up and get me
Yeah.
dinner.
Yeah.
It's true. There's the Englishman.
Can't
don't
believe
understand a lot
that
of
you
it.
were worried about this interview. She should have her own show. She should have her own talk show.
But
I would watch that show.
Englishmen, you know, they were sent off to boarding school. My husband was sent off to boarding. Her dad was sent off to boarding school when he was 6 years old.
And you show no emotion.
You don't like any
It's like-
emotions. Everything's told. It's a different era.
Yeah.
We come, both Vanessa and I are the last of that era. It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Well, we married young.
We
It's-
married
It's
young.
ironically, it wasn't planned this way. She was 19 when she married. I was 19. I had my first baby at 21. You had me at 22.
I had
I think.
you at twice 20. Yeah.
Yeah, so those are similarities, but and yet I was a different era, if you like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
life is very different now. It's also much
Yeah.
easier.
My girls can't imagine.
On the one hand,
poor
we say it's easier.
Mhm.
It isn't. I look out there and I see all these men working online at home, not going out.
Mhm.
Presumably there's pornography for them to sort of have their, what have you with their, they don't need to go out in court.
Right.
And girls don't know what the hell they're supposed to be doing. They're well educated. They
Right.
don't know how to cook. They don't set a table and all that stuff. But they know how. She's got a daughter who's brilliant, who works for Amazon. Is flying to Edinburgh tonight because she's in this charge of this team. She's brilliant.
Mhm.
She's 30, but ask her to boil an egg, forget about it. And it's just a different world now. And I happen to think it's much more difficult now. for
And I blame
couples to
social
get
media
together.
for a lot of.
Social media is a
influence.
devil.
Mm-hmm.
These girls look online, they do all this stuff the whole time, which I find insulting in my company. And they go, oh my God, look at her figure, so lovely, look at that dress, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful. And they all feel diminished by what they see online, which is garbage. It's fake. And it's created a bunch of women, young women, who feel insecure. They don't feel good enough, pretty enough, sexy enough. They don't know what they're supposed to do. We didn't know any of that stuff. We just went on sheer animal instinct and it got us through.
Valerie, you are so vital and full of energy. I can't imagine the next step in your iteration. when
Well,
you
it's
go
the
to
grave,
great-
darling.
When it's a great beyond. That's what I'm talking
I'm on
about.
the way down.
Like, stop it. Okay, so.
Her father lived 103, so
Oh,
she's
there
got
you
a,
go.
she's got a long way to go.
Excellent.
Lot of living to do.
Excellent. So have you had the conversation, the difficult conversation of like when mom goes, what's gonna happen? Have you, first of all, let me ask you, what's your approach to
Death.
death? What do you
Well,
think about death?
Fucking terrified of it, of course.
Are you? Are you?
I don't want to, yeah, I think, I hope it's not painful.
Mhm.
No one wants
My
to.
finances I've organized so that when I die, each of my children will receive something.
Yeah.
So that makes me feel peaceful. Not a lot, because I'm spending it right now on being alive.
Yeah.
So, but,
And that's how it should be. I keep telling her,
you
live your
know,
life.
but they'll have something.
She
Yeah.
won't rest peacefully unless I
I-
have a man in mind.
I
She's gonna live forever because she can't die until I found a good man.
One thing you need to get on those dating apps. Go ahead.
I don't want
there,
to
done
be
it.
buried. The idea of rotting in ground is horrible. I want to do what I did with my parents. I had them cremated
Mhm.
and I kept mummy. And I hope this doesn't sound disgusting to you, but I kept her in a beautiful box near my bedroom, not in, but near my bedroom for near 20 years, wasn't it?
We didn't think it'd be that long. so
And I
waiting for my
talked to her, I
grandfather.
talked to her every day. I said, oh my God, mum, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so I had
Well,
this
then
relate-
what happened to her after the 20 years? Where'd you?
well,
put her?
then daddy died.
Uh-huh.
And
He lived to 103. We were waiting for him.
I'm waiting
to
for
pass,
dad to die. Then my
And then
father,
taken together, and he went on and on.
the
remarried
gift that goes on
86.
giving. The gift that goes on giving. Anyway, dad finally said goodbye. And so Vanessa and I made this pilgrimage back to Scotland. It was really
2018.
embarrassing because mum's box was a big heavy mahogany thing that had given us in Scotland, hardly lift the bloody thing. And she was a small woman, so I don't know why it was so weighty. And then daddy's one was pretty much the similar. So I went to this morgue in the mortuary place where I'd actually had my husband in turn. And I went in there and I said, look, I've got these 2 boxes. They're very heavy. I want to take them back to Scotland. Is there any way you, not me, but you can put their ashes into something a little bit more portable? Because I want to take my parents home to Scotland. So the woman was so lovely. She said, of course, come back in a couple of days, leave it to me. So I went back a couple of days and she showed me these beautiful tubes. They were narrow tubes. One had lovely, she asked me first of all what my mother liked as way of decoration, what my father liked. So I said, my father liked to go for walks in the woods and things. My mother loved roses. So here was this one with beautiful roses on it.
Oh.
And here was one with sort of woodland scenes on, bluebells in the woods. And daddy was in that one, and mum was in this one. And so Vanessa and I took these 2 tubes back to Scotland. And we went to all our favorite places.
Their favorite.
Their mum and daddy's favorite place. Mum, parents were great picnickers. And we actually climbed the fence of where they, house that they built and scattered ashes in their own garden. And we scattered their ashes in where they'd been, we'd all had family picnics. And we scattered their ashes around this castle we used to all go to. And all the places that mum and dad held dear. And then the final thing was, and we had one of my grandchildren with us. She came up.
I forgot the
Amy.
final one.
And we went to the grave,
Mhm.
the grave, where all my grandparents, my brother who had Down syndrome was buried there with my parents, with my grandparents. And it was getting dark now, and a very spooky part of Scotland. And all the trees were like that shape because here comes the wind off the North Sea.
Oh, yeah.
So it was, dark and spooky.
It's-
And the 3 of us were there with our
Our
residue,
flashlights.
trying to find Granny's grave. And
We look
found-
like grave robbers. We got the giggles. We're like, if anyone sees us at dark with a flashlight, giggling in a graveyard.
We found the grave where my grandparents are buried, my aunt's buried, and my brother's buried, and we put their final ashes around there.
And it
And
just felt good.
and it felt
So I'll have to retrieve those steps
Complete.
for her.
Well, that's the
So I
question.
got
Put her in a
what about
pretty cylinder.
I want them to do the same thing for me.
You want a
Take back-
cylinder?
A cylinder with
what
roses,
kind of cylinder? Roses?
roses back to Scotland and all the places that we did with mum and dad.
Yeah.
And then the final thing with everybody else and on the graveyard.
Mhm.
That would be lovely.
I
I
want the
certainly
same.
don't want to be, don't get me wrong, sister Americans, I don't want to lie on foreign soil.
Yeah.
I want to go
understood.
back where I come from.
Understood completely. What about you, Vanessa? What do you want?
I want the same thing.
What if, God forbid, it happened to her before you?
I want the
I'd
same
take her
thing.
back. We got each other's back.
Yeah. Right.
No pun intended, but
Has there, okay, can I get a little dangerous territory? here?
yes,
Has there been a time when you stopped speaking to each other?
never.
That's
Never.
shocking. And,
No.
and all this time, it's
Never.
shocking. Well, I don't think I've ever stopped speaking to my mother, but
Yeah.
I mean, people do.
Oh,
I
no.
know. Oh, I know.
My own daughter
We
didn't
have
speak to me for a
serious
year.
disagreements where you just come back and say,
No, we've never had a fight. And I know that sounds nauseating, we haven't. We've always
And
been
actually,
very
my
easy.
youngest daughter and I, we've never had a fight.
No,
My oldest one, yes. The youngest one, no.
Mhm.
I've got an ongoing fight with one of my sons right now.
Mhm.
And I call it the whisperer fault. Men marry women who don't like their mothers-in-law. They see them as threats. And I had that situation. And so whispering, she whispers to him,
She was
and
like a
she's,
bitch.
we all hate her. She has destroyed my relationship, with my youngest son. My eldest son and I love his wife and I'm friendly
His
with,
mummy.
and I'm very friendly with her mother as well, and this kind of thing. But I have one son that is difficult.
But if you talk to most families have one person, like
Yeah.
a black sheep, or
Yeah.
whether it's a brother or an uncle or a sister, whoever it is.
It sounds like you were never even anywhere near the idea of being a black sheep. You were just.
He's just the perfect child.
Yeah. I mean, did you not ever want to go be bad?
Oh, she was bad.
I wasn't
"Now
that
you ran
bad.
away one."
I ran away for 4 hours.
4 hours.
Okay, you want the bad story?
No,
Okay,
no, no, no,
yeah,
no.
we did.
I had one bad boyfriend
She
when I was very
she
young.
got a wonderful job when we were living, gosh, it's gonna sound so
talking about?
brilliant. We were living in a castle in Germany.
We were, excuse me, we were living in a castle in Germany.
I went to school in a castle in Germany.
No, seriously, we were, because my father taught there. In the world,
It's an old monastery.
there are these wonderful schools called the Round Square schools. And they're very special schools. There's one in Australia, there's one in California, this one's in Germany, in Salon, in South Germany, near Überlingen, across the border from Switzerland. And my father taught there, he was head of languages. And after my divorce, I took my children there because it was safe. And Vanessa went to school there. They took Vanessa, they took Toby, my son. And they also took my youngest son, who was at the prep school. And then Bronwyn, my youngest daughter, went to school. This one over with Prince Margarita of Baden, who's now recently got married at the village school. We lived next door to the castle where the Prince Max and his family lived. And
I was taking what, I know.
So,
so why am I telling this story?
Because apparently I was bad then.
Oh,
I wasn't bad.
so she got this wonderful job. She was about 16. She got this wonderful job for this very aristocratic Italian family who were going down to the south.
But I wasn't bad then, I was good.
Wait a minute. To the
getting to the back.
They were going down and they went down in convoy. There was a big car with the grandmother, the Duchess. They were all German royalty and these kids. And she went down and had to look after these 4 children. Lovely, perfect, her summer job. She comes back. She's got this beautiful wallet with the family crest on it and her name initial as a gift and everything. And they said she was the most wonderful girl. And we sat at the kitchen table. Do you remember what you said to me? Can you get me on the pill now, please, mummy? Can you put me on the pill?
On the pill.
I lost my virginity.
Because there had been, she used to take these children to this merry-go-round fair, and there was this guy whose name, believe it or not, was Mario. And he,
Marco,
oh, it was Marco, was it? There's M names and O on the end. And this way she left her flower behind and and so that's the only time I
wouldn't say it was bad.
no, I'm sure it was lovely, but that was the only time she did
I don't
something.
think I was ever bad. And I'm like, I was just normal.
Anyway,
He was smart.
she left a girl, came back a woman.
At least I didn't get knocked up.
We have time for one more question. If anybody has a question at the other end of the table, anybody have a question? Alice, maybe you can go out there and get a little question for them that comes.
What's
from-
up? What's
No,
up?
I don't want to make Alice.
Laura.
Alice, we-
To comment on, as a mother, I think one of the greatest things that you hit on was that your children love each other and get along.
They do.
That's a great comfort.
And we also enjoy being around our mother. I mean,
Right.
And all her grandkids adore her, and she's really good at keeping up on social media as much as she can to kind of be a 2023 grandma type thing,
Right.
which you have to do
Right.
to
Exactly.
communicate.
To
'Cause
see what they're
they're not going to write letters anymore and
Right.
rarely pick up the phone.
Sometimes my daughter will tell me things my son is doing, because my son isn't telling me anything,
Yeah.
but I love.
The
that
family
they
network.
communicate with
They
each other.
talk to each other,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you see us around Austin, we kind of move as a tribe, like if you see a bunch of women and one guy, that's my son, and a bunch of dogs, it's us.
That's so.
We usually at Torchy's Tacos because this one is addicted to Torchy's.
I love
Okay, so
Torchy's.
Torchy's in New
Uh,
York.
trash can.
Responsible for 8 pounds around my stomach
Oh,
already.
it's yummy. Well, thank you so much for coming. Is there anything else you'd like
Are
to
we being
say?
paid for this?
Yeah. Free lunch,
Free lunch.
free lunch.
They say there's no such thing as a free lunch, but we got a free lunch.
You get a free lunch.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody. Ended now.
Oh my gosh, sorry.